Rock music has always carried stories of rebellion, love, and power. But some of its most unforgettable songs come from tragedy. Behind the riffs and anthems are real lives lost, violent moments that shook communities, and farewells that still bring fans to tears. Today, we're counting down 10 iconic rock songs whose backstories are as heartbreaking as the music is unforgettable. So Far Away, Avenged Sevenfold.
Will you stay? Will you stay away forever?
Avenged Sevenfold built their reputation on thunderous riffs, searing solos, and arena-shaking energy. But So Far Away is the band at its most vulnerable. Written by guitarist Sinister Gates, the song was born from heartbreak after the sudden death of drummer Jimmy "The Rev" Sullivan in 2009, who wasn't just a bandmate, but a childhood friend and brother in spirit. Instead of rage, the track is soaked in grief and remembrance, a soaring ballad where every note aches with loss.
How do I live without the ones I love?
The lyrics read like a letter never sent, a desperate wish to bridge the distance between life and death. Shadows sings with a rawness that feels less like performance and more like confession, as if the band opened a window into their private mourning. For fans, the song became more than just a tribute. It was a collective grieving space, a reminder that no stage, no fame, no walls of sound can shield you from the pain of losing someone irreplaceable. So Far Away lingers because it doesn't try to fix the wound. It simply acknowledges it. It resonates with anyone who has ever lost someone too soon, carrying that universal truth. The ache never fully fades, but music can help us carry it. 100% Sonic Youth. 100% feels like a gritty, cool slice of early 90s alternative rock. Skate videos, distorted riffs, pure attitude. But underneath the noise is a shocking tragedy. The song is dedicated to Joe Cole, a close friend of the band and part of the same underground LA music scene that nurtured Sonic Youth. In 1991, Cole was murdered in a robbery outside his home, shot in cold blood while walking back from a show with Henry Rollins. The killer was never caught, leaving the crime as one of the most haunting unsolved tragedies in the rock world.
A gun to my head, goodbye, I am dead, wastewood.
Knowing this context transforms 100% into something far heavier than just another alt-rock anthem. Every riff feels jagged with anger, every shouted lyric a release of grief and frustration.
Wastewood, rockers, it's time to cry.
The song becomes not just a dedication, but a refusal to let Joe's name vanish into silence. It's the sound of mourning disguised as punk defiance. Heartbreak hidden beneath feedback and volume. That's what makes 100% one of Sonic Youth's most powerful moments. It isn't just noise for noise's sake. It's noise as catharsis, noise as survival. Because for Sonic Youth, and for those who loved Joe Cole, silence would have been unbearable. What's the frequency, Kenneth? R.E.M.
What's the frequency, Kenneth? The shopping's a drain.
With its jangling riffs and wry delivery, What's the Frequency, Kenneth? Comes off like classic quirky R.E.M. Catchy, offbeat, and playful. Yet the title hides a bizarre origin, rooted in one of the most surreal attacks in pop culture history. In 1986, CBS News anchor Dan Rather was walking home when he was suddenly attacked on the street by a man who kept repeating a surreal phrase. What's the frequency, Kenneth?
What's the frequency, Kenneth? The shopping's a drain.
At the time, no one could make sense of it, and the words entered pop culture as an oddball mystery. R.E.M. seized on its weirdness, turning it into a title that perfectly captured the confusion and chaos of modern identity. But the story didn't end there. Years later, the attacker was identified as William Tager, a deeply troubled man who believed television networks were sending signals into his brain. His paranoia escalated, And in 1994, he was convicted of murdering a stagehand at NBC. Suddenly, that strange, almost humorous phrase took on a much darker edge. What seemed like a fun, offbeat hook became something far more unsettling, a reminder of how fragile the line is between eccentricity and violence. The song's energy masks a chilling truth. Sometimes the stories behind the quirks are more disturbing than anyone realizes. Get Your Gun, Marilyn Manson. Provocative and unsettling, Marilyn Manson's Get Your Gun isn't just shock rock, it's a furious protest wrapped in distortion. The song was born out of one of the most chilling events of the early 90s. The 1993 murder of Dr. David Gunn, an abortion provider who was shot dead by an anti-abortion extremist. For Manson, the horror wasn't only in the act itself, it was in the staggering hypocrisy. A man was killed in cold blood in the name of a movement that claimed to be pro-life. Manson latched onto that contradiction and sharpened it into art. With snarling vocals and gothic aggression, Get Your Gun is less about melody and more about confrontation. It's angry, abrasive, and deliberately uncomfortable, meant to force listeners to confront the darkness festering beneath America's cultural debates. He wanted people to feel disturbed, because the reality behind the song was disturbing. What makes the track even more powerful is the way Manson blurs shock value with social commentary. Critics at the time dismissed him as a provocateur, but Get Your Gun showed he wasn't just chasing outrage. He was holding up a mirror to the violence, hypocrisy, and contradictions of society. That uneasy mix of horror and truth is why the song still lingers long after the amps fade. The Way, Fastball. The first time you hear The Way, it feels like sunlight in a song, warm, bright, and effortlessly inviting. The kind of tune you'd expect to soundtrack a carefree summer drive. But beneath the sunny melody lies a story as tragic as it is unforgettable. The inspiration came from a news story in Texas in 1997, when an elderly couple, Layla and Raymond Howard, set out for a local festival. Both were dealing with serious health issues. Raymond had recently undergone brain surgery, and Layla was showing signs of Alzheimer's. Against their doctor's advice, they got in their car and drove off. They never made it to their destination. For weeks, their disappearance made headlines until their car was eventually found at the bottom of a ravine, hundreds of miles away from home. The couple had become hopelessly lost, taking a wrong turn that turned into their final journey together. Fastball's Tony Scalzo was so struck by the story that he turned it into The Way. But instead of focusing on the grim details, he reimagined their last road trip as something bittersweet, almost romantic. In the song, the couple isn't lost or confused. Instead, they're wandering freely, heading toward an eternal summer, a place where no one knows their name and no one can hold them back. That contrast, the bright, almost celebratory music paired with the dark reality, gave the song its haunting power. To listeners, it plays like a road trip anthem. But once you know the true story, every lyric feels different, heavier, sadder. What could have been a quirky one-hit wonder became something much deeper, a poetic tribute to love, loss, and the mysteries of the road we all eventually take. Zombie, The Cranberries. When Dolores O'Riordan sang Zombie, it wasn't just another rock anthem. It was a scream of anguish that tore through the airwaves of the 1990s. The song was born out of the horrific 1993 IRA bombing in Warrington, England, an attack that claimed the lives of two young boys, 3-year-old Jonathan Ball and 12-year-old Tim Perry, and injured dozens more. Dolores, horrified by the images of grieving families and children caught in a war they never chose, turned her heartbreak into a weapon of truth.
In your head.
Unlike many artists who tread carefully around political conflict, Dolores didn't hold back. She poured her grief and fury into Zombie, with raw, haunting lyrics that cut deeper than any politician's speech ever could. Her voice trembles, cracks, and roars with both pain and defiance. Each chorus feels like a cry from the depths of her soul, a demand to end the cycle of violence that had plagued Ireland for decades. The song was heavier, grittier, and more confrontational than anything the Cranberries had released before. And it worked. Zombie became an anthem of resistance, climbing charts around the world and resonating with people far beyond Ireland's borders. It wasn't just about one bombing. It was about every act of senseless violence, every innocent life destroyed by war. Even today, Zombie remains timeless. When it plays, you don't just hear a song, you feel a wound that refuses to heal. It's a reminder that behind every headline about conflict are shattered families, stolen futures, and voices crying out for peace. And Dolores made sure the world heard them. These are the days of our lives. Queen.
Sometimes I get to feeling I was back in the old days.
These Are the Days of Our Lives is far more than just another Queen ballad. It's a quiet, heart-wrenching farewell from Freddie Mercury. While drummer Roger Taylor wrote the lyrics about time passing, friendships, and loss, the song's true power lies in its context.
Things in life were so few.
Freddie recorded it while gravely ill with AIDS, knowing it could be one of his final performances. The song itself is gentle and reflective, like a personal diary entry put to music. But the real emotional impact comes from the music video. Filmed in black and white to soften his appearance, Freddie looks thin and frail, yet he carries himself with immense dignity and grace. He makes no attempt to hide his condition, facing the camera with the same fearless honesty that defined his career. And then came the moment that has since echoed through rock history. Looking straight into the camera, Freddie whispered, "I still love you."
I still love you.
No theatrics, no grand finale. Just a simple, tender declaration from a man who knew his time was running out. That single phrase carried more weight than 1,000 lyrics, because it wasn't just a line in a song. It was his final gift, his last direct message to fans who had stood by him. Released only months before his death in 1991, These Are the Days of Our Lives became more than music. It became a memorial. To this day, it remains one of the most powerful goodbyes ever captured on film, leaving millions of hearts both shattered and forever changed. Polly, Nirvana.
Polly wants a cracker. Think I should get on.
Behind the calm strum of Polly lies a nightmare. Kurt Cobain wrote the song after hearing about the abduction and assault of a 14-year-old girl in Tacoma. She was kidnapped after leaving a concert, tortured, and tied up. Yet somehow, through sheer bravery, she managed to escape. Rather than write a straightforward retelling, Cobain did something even more disturbing. He wrote the lyrics from the abductor's perspective. Lines that might sound almost casual take on a horrifying weight once you know the context.
Got some rope, heaven's door, promise you.
Cobain wasn't glorifying the violence. He was holding up a mirror to it, forcing listeners to step inside the predator's twisted mind.
Let me clean up dirty rains. Let me take.
It was a choice meant to shock, unsettle, and leave you unable to look away. This decision reflected Cobain's deep anger at violence against women. He wanted fans to feel the horror, not brush it aside as just another crime headline. And in doing so, he created one of Nirvana's most haunting tracks, a song that doesn't scream or rage, but whispers, quietly, uncomfortably, until it gets under your skin.
Want some help and myself.
Jeremy, Pearl Jam.
Jeremy.
few rock songs hit as hard as Jeremy. Inspired by the true story of 15-year-old Jeremy Dell, who tragically ended his life in front of his classmates in 1991, Eddie Vedder turned a horrifying headline into one of the most haunting songs of the 90s. But it wasn't just a news story for him. Vedder also carried the memory of a troubled student from his own school days, someone he remembered sitting alone, withdrawn, and hurting. That blend of personal experience and public tragedy gave the song a chilling authenticity. Musically, Jeremy builds from a moody, simmering bass line into a full, anguished cry, echoing the pain of a life cut short. And then came the music video. Stark, unsettling, filled with imagery that MTV found too graphic. The censorship only added to its mystique, leaving the audience to piece together the devastating final moment. Yet despite the controversy, Jeremy wasn't designed to shock for shock's sake. It's a desperate plea to notice the lonely, the voiceless, and the invisible before it's too late. Decades later, its message of empathy still feels urgent, a reminder that behind every quiet face could be a storm no one sees. One More Light, Linkin Park.
Should have stayed, were the signs.
When Linkin Park first released One More Light, it wasn't meant to be a single. It was a quiet, emotional track, written in memory of a close friend who had died of cancer. But after the tragic loss of Chester Bennington in 2017, the song transformed into something much heavier. Hearing Chester's voice sing, "Who cares if one more light goes out? Well, I do," suddenly felt like a message from him, and to him.
Who cares if one more?
Just days after the death of his close friend Chris Cornell, Linkin Park performed One More Light on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Just 'cause you can't see it doesn't mean it.
The tribute was raw and almost unbearable, and in the months that followed, after Chester's own passing, that performance took on an even deeper weight as fans across the world grieved together. It's no longer just a tribute to a friend. It's now forever tied to Chester himself. One More Light became a beacon of mourning, but also a reminder that every life, no matter how fragile, deeply matters.
Cares when someone's time runs out. Well, I do.
Every one of these songs carries a hidden weight, a story of pain, tragedy, or loss that forever changes the way we hear them. They remind us that behind the music we love are real people, real lives, and sometimes heartbreaking truths. So the next time you hear a song that moves you, remember, behind the melody might be a story that breaks your heart.